it has kind of been, at least until recently, kind of a life goal of mine to at some point visit Australia because I think it would be a lovely trip. I don't want to go anywhere near Australia anymore. They are totally off their frigging rocker down there. Okie dokie, dear listeners. I was thinking that I was going to be done, quite honestly, after the first segment of today because I went and kind of did a rant on COVID. If you're interested in that one, link right above one of these places here. And yeah, give it a look because I kind of just let loose. But one of the things we talked about, at least briefly in that segment, was Novak Djokovic and his bid to get into Australia so he can play the Australian Open. If you're not familiar with Mr. Djokovic, he is a tennis player, and the Australian Open is coming up here in a matter of days. When I recorded that episode, he at that time had been granted access to Australia, much to the chagrin of their Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who was not happy about it. But there has been a change, so I wanted to get on that. Before we do, my name is Dan. This is the Soul of Wisdom. Thank you for joining me. Please do take a moment to like this video, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you would be so kind. These things cost you nothing, but they help get the channel out in front of other people in great ways. So please hook me up on that one. Okie dokie. Let's get into this. We're going straight to the source here. No messing around with U.S. news. This is the Sydney Morning Herald. Okay. So before I get into this story real quick, he had been granted access into the country. And then when he arrived, they detained him and then they revoked his visa. And that's kind of where this picks up. Okay, so headline reads, Novak Djokovic wins court bid to remain in Australia until Monday. Djokovic will remain in Melbourne until Monday after launching a last-minute bid in Federal Circuit Court to stop the federal government from deporting him before the Australian Open begins. Lawyers for the Serbian star appeared in an online hearing on Thursday after he had his visa canceled upon arrival in Australia and was sent to immigration detention at the Park Hotel in Carlton. As the hearing continued into the evening, after two earlier adjournments, Djokovic's lawyers secured an interim injunction that prevents authorities from deporting the tennis star until at least 4 p.m. on Monday, when a more substantive hearing is scheduled. Barrister Christopher Tran, acting for the federal government, said the government did not oppose an injunction against immediate deportation. Judge Anthony Kelly adjourned the case to be heard before 10 a.m. to be heard from 10 a.m. on Monday, 1 week before the Australian Open starts. Djokovic's legal challenge began Thursday afternoon, but Judge Kelly twice adjourned the hearing because he hadn't received the written material filed by Djokovic's lawyers. Judge Kelly said he was strongly inclined to hear the case speedily and was open to having Djokovic give evidence if necessary in an online hearing. The judge warned he would not be bound by Tennis Australia's preference that the issue be resolved by Tuesday. Tournament organizers would need time to find a replacement if Djokovic doesn't compete. If I can say with respect necessary, the tail won't be wagging the dog here, Judge Kelly said. Nick Wood for Djokovic said he would be open to discussions with authorities in an attempt to find a way for his client to play, but said resolving the visa dispute was the key. But as I sit here, the absence of a visa, if the cancellation decision is valid, is an insuperable obstacle to Mr. Djokovic competing in the tournament. Mr. Wood requested the case be finalized before the Open began, January 17th. We already said that. According to the federal government, the approval for the visas was an automated process, and it was always up to individuals to prove their vaccination status or valid exemption upon arrival. Border Force regularly turns away people who cannot meet their visa requirements. Rules are rules, and there are no special cases, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said. I want to thank the border officers for doing their job. It's simply a matter of following the rules. Over the next few hours, the event will play out as it should. Karina Ford, an immigration law specialist with no connection to the case, said Djokovic's lawyers would be mindful that anyone who has a canceled visa can be barred from reapplying to enter Australia for 3 years unless they have a waiver. It does have serious consequences. Okie dokie. So, before we get into a second article that I also have from that city newspaper, it's interesting to me that they allowed him to have a visa to enter. There was all sorts of a stink going on, and I did cover this in the previous episode about how the Prime Minister was butthurt because the authorities in Victoria, where the tournament was taking place, were going to allow this to happen. And the citizens, many of them were upset because they've had to suffer through hell down there, which I contended in that episode was a lot on them because they're allowing themselves to suffer. Just my opinion. But, so you got this stink going on, and then all of a sudden he's detained. And now he's under basically a house arrest in a hotel rather than going out and getting ready to play a tennis tournament when he was told he could enter the country. So that's just all sorts of lovely, isn't it? All right, let's get back to the news here real quick. A short time later... Oh, actually, this isn't the same newspaper. My apologies. This is from The Age, also in Australia. But anyways, it doesn't matter. Border Force investigating other Australian Open players after Djokovic ban. Australian Border Force is investigating at least one unvaccinated tennis player and one official who have already been allowed into the country after world number one Novak Djokovic was sent to an immigration detention and had his visa canceled. Federal authorities have also not ruled out banning Djokovic from entering for 3 years. We already covered that. Find me what I was looking for here. Okay, so they're talking about the thing going on with Djokovic. Tennis Australia claimed on Thursday that other Australian Open participants had been allowed into the country after contracting COVID in the past 6 months, using the same exemption that Djokovic applied for. So that's what he is saying. He's saying that he had COVID already this year. That was his exemption because he should have, I presume, the natural immunity. I'm presuming that's the argument. And Tennis Australia came out and said, hey, why are you holding this dude? Because we've got other people here on the same thing that he said. But as the article continues, this prompted Border Force to launch investigations into the other player and official. Federal government sources said that the two might also fall foul of the rules, but said every case is different and they may have other valid medical reasons for not being vaccinated. Home Affairs Minister Karen Andrews said on Thursday confirmed that Border Force was now investigating the allegations and didn't rule out more players being sent back home. I'm aware of those allegations and I can assure you that the Border Force is investigating that now, Ms. Andrews said. ABF needs the opportunity to be able to conduct its investigation. If the evidence is not there, then they will take the appropriate action. 3 sources familiar with Djokovic's paperwork on arrival, speaking anonymously to detail confidential documentation, said evidence to support the player's exemption was minimal and was only supported by one doctor. They said it was far less substantive than any other player and official who had entered the country on the same vaccine exemption. The other player and official had more than one doctor supporting their claims of prior COVID infection. Okay. It was totally insufficient and he couldn't produce anything else. What else are we meant to do in the situation? One senior Commonwealth source said. All right. So it has kind of been, at least until recently, kind of a life goal of mine to at some point visit Australia, because I think it would be a lovely trip. I don't want to go anywhere near Australia anymore. They are totally off their frigging rocker down there. Okay? This doesn't make sense to me. First of all, you told the guy he could enter your country, so he came. And then, in my opinion, it's probably because of the uproar from the Prime Minister and several citizens who got quoted in some news articles, that they decided upon his arrival to go, nope, can't do it. Give me a break. he had a letter from a doctor saying that he had COVID in the last 6 months, but apparently one doctor's insufficient. You need like a panel of them. I don't get it. Now, granted, Australia's their own country; they can do what they want to do, but this is a BS play. It really is. When you tell somebody yes, you can enter, and then you stop them at the border and detain them, revoking their visa after you said yes, that's fine. There's some BS going on there for sure. You know, I don't understand personally how it is that the folks in Australia are allowing this to happen to themselves. How is it that they're allowing themselves to be under such a tyrannical rule? But you know what? I'll also say these are the same people who handed over their guns a decade or two ago because there was a quote-unquote mass shooting incident, and they decided that they just couldn't live under that possibility anymore, so they disarmed themselves. Well, here's what happens when you have a disarmed citizenry. The government can just go and do whatever the hell they want. So here they are. But it's unfortunate that now you have a prominent figure in the tennis world, one of the most prominent figures in the tennis world, who is now being detained. You know, I find it hard to believe that Australia doesn't come out of this looking really bad. This is like a freaking PR nightmare. But even beyond all of this, I'll go back to this again, and I'm going to say it straight away. We are not anti-vax here at the Soule of Wisdom. We are pro-talk to your doctor. Everybody has to make their own individual medical choices. But again, what exactly is it going to do to the country of Australia to have one person come into their country who has not been vaccinated but has already had COVID, so he should have a certain amount of natural immunity? So I don't understand where his health is going to be at risk. And I also don't understand where it is that all of Australia's health is going to be at risk, because again, we are learning with Omicron especially, the vaccine does not stop this thing. It does not stop you from getting it. It does not stop you from spreading it to others. It just doesn't do that. Now, from what we can gather, there's some ability to lessen your symptoms if you get it, but even then, you're talking about some of the healthiest people in the world, these tennis players. I played tennis for decades before I just got too doggone old and my joints can't take it anymore. But I will tell you, that was some of the best shape I'd ever been in my life, because cardiovascularly especially, you have to be fit, which means your heart, your lungs have to be incredibly strong to survive a long tennis match. These dudes are as fit as can be. So even if he got it, and apparently he did get it this year, you'll notice he's still out there playing tennis, so his health isn't at risk. And again, if this vaccine isn't stopping the spread, and we know it's not because vaccinated people are affecting other vaccinated people, then what's the difference? Honestly, what are you trying to prove? And I said this in the episode I did earlier today, this stuff is everywhere. It just is. They have it in Antarctica. Look it up on the like research camps and stuff they have down there. They've got it. And tell me you can get much more isolated than Antarctica. But it's there. So, I don't know. I just thought I wanted to do this episode to bring you up to speed a little bit as to what's going on, because it is a bit of a change from the info that I provided earlier today. I'll be curious to see where this goes. Obviously, the fight is on, and I don't blame Djokovic for challenging this whatsoever, because number one, he's got a tennis tournament to go out and win, and if he wins it, he takes the lead for the most Grand Slam tournament victories of all time, so there's motivation there. Plus, he was already told he can be there. And then he lands, and they tell him, nope, you can't be here. So I don't think that's right. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. Please let me know what you think of this in the comments. I would appreciate hearing from you. And until the next time we talk, take care.